It'd be one of my favorite races to watch in such a long time. The excitement that lasted so far into the race with Kimi and George going back and forth, the drama unfolding when George stopped, seeing a podium of the greats, an overall very exciting Canadian Grand Prix weekend. So let's recap it all. Hi, welcome back to the Grid Girls Formula.
The Canadian Grand Prix gave us everything: rain chaos, strategy disasters, rising stars, and one of the most emotional podiums we have seen all season. So let's break down everything that happened in Montreal. Start with the story everyone is talking about: the growing tension between George Russell and Kimi Antonelli at Mercedes. Antonelli is not just a rookie anymore. He is rewriting the record books, race after race, and Russell can feel the pressure building right next to him in the same garage. What used to be a comfortable number one seat suddenly does not feel so comfortable. Then there is Lewis Hamilton. This was, without question, his strongest weekend of the season. His battles with Max Verstappen throughout the race felt like something out of 2021. Aggressive, fearless, and full of mutual respect. It was vintage Formula One, the kind of racing that reminds you why these two are considered among the greatest of their generation. McLaren, on the other hand, had a weekend to forget. A costly tire gamble backfired at exactly the wrong moment, and Oscar Piastri picked up a penalty that only made things worse. For a team fighting at the front of the championship, this was a strategy nightmare they cannot afford to repeat. Charles Leclerc did not hold back afterward, calling this the toughest weekend of his career. Wet conditions, unpredictable strategy calls, and a car that never quite found its rhythm. It all added up to a truly difficult day at the office. But it was not all bad news up and down the grid. Red Bull may finally be finding its footing again, showing signs of real competitiveness after a rocky stretch. Franco Colapinto continued his breakout run with Alpine, proving Montreal was no fluke. And Isaac Hadjar quietly kept impressing, building a case that he deserves far more attention than he is getting. Williams had a mixed weekend in the rain. Flashes of pace mixed with mistakes that cost them positions. And over at Racing Bulls, the drama started before the race had even begun, adding even more chaos to an already unpredictable Sunday. Now let's talk F1 Academy, because this was a wild triple-header weekend. Alicia Palmowski dominated in Canada and now takes the championship lead heading into the next round. The reverse grid races brought exactly the chaos you would expect: penalties, safety cars, and constant shifts in momentum. Matilda Potts claimed victory in race 2, and there were some incredible recovery drives from drivers fighting back through the field in genuinely difficult wet conditions. Before we wrap up, let's look ahead to Monaco, a race weekend with one of the wildest histories in the sport. Back in 1996, only 3 cars finished the race, thanks to a chaotic mix of crashes and mechanical failures. And then there is Alberto Ascari, who famously lost control during the 1955 Monaco Grand Prix and drove straight into the harbor, and somehow walked away from it. So that is Montreal: rising stars, veteran battles, costly mistakes, and championship shakeups. If you love the engineering, the strategy, and the history behind Formula One, make sure you are subscribed, because Monaco is coming up next, and it never disappoints. San Anselmo residents thought they were finally done paying flood control fees. It turns out they were wrong. Back in March of 2024, voters in this small Marin County town passed something called Measure F. The idea was simple on paper: pull San Anselmo out of the Marin County Flood Control and Water Conservation District Zone 9, and stop paying into a program that many residents felt had wasted their money for years. And there was real frustration behind that vote. Since 2007, homeowners in the Ross Valley had been paying an annual flood control fee, all in the name of reducing flood risk along San Anselmo Creek. Over time, that added up to more than $50 million collected. But critics say the visible results never matched the money spent. Projects were delayed. Plans changed. And one proposal in particular, tearing down a bridge in the middle of downtown that had become a beloved public plaza during the pandemic, pushed a lot of residents over the edge. Ross Asselstein became the face of that frustration. He helped lead the campaign for Measure F, telling voters that leaving the district meant leaving the fee behind for good. 63% of voters agreed, and Measure F passed. But here's the twist. Withdrawing from the district did not actually cancel the fee. Town officials and county supervisors say that was explained clearly, in writing, before residents ever cast a ballot. Marin County Supervisor Brian Colbert put it plainly, even after leaving the district, San Anselmo is still financially responsible for the fee until it fully expires. And that expiration date is not until 2027. So residents have been paying anyway. Since 2024, money has continued to flow out of San Anselmo homeowners' pockets and into a district they officially voted to leave. For a lot of people, that feels like a broken promise. Asselstein is not backing down. He argues that voters approved a specific legal document, and that document should be honored completely, not selectively. His position is straightforward. If the vote meant anything, the fee collection should stop right now, and residents should be refunded everything they have paid since the measure passed. County officials see it differently. They maintain that the language was never hidden. Residents agreed to keep paying for ongoing, already funded projects, even if the town itself left the district. From their perspective, this isn't a broken promise. It's simply how the agreement was always structured. Right now, there's no refund on the table. Asselstein says his preference is to avoid a legal battle altogether. He's hoping the flood district decides, on its own, to pay residents back. But he's also made it clear that if that doesn't happen, a lawsuit could be the next step. Meanwhile, the fee itself is on a countdown. It's set to fully sunset in 2027, which will finally close the book on nearly 2 decades of Ross Valley flood control funding. Whether the county ends up making a voluntary refund, or whether this ends up getting decided in court, it will be a case study for other towns thinking about pulling out of regional programs like this one, because as San Anselmo is learning, exiting an agreement does not always mean the payments stop.